Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back, and today we're getting into some gameplay. So we're going to be working on our set 6 deck. We're going to be doing Sapphire Steel. I will have the deck list linked in the description below. I'm going to go over it just briefly, but I'm not going to hit every single card just because I don't feel like that's really necessary. There are a lot of cards here that you see in pretty much any Sapphire Steel deck that you're going to be looking at. So with this deck, what I'm wanting to do, I've always wanted to build a deck around Pabbie, and I feel like there's quite a bit of healing that works really well in this set. And so what I have done is I have built this deck primarily around healing. So of course we've got Pabbie, who is going to gain 2 lore anytime we remove damage from any of our characters. We've also got Baymax, who is going to heal 2 damage whenever he enters play, as well as whenever he quests, and will gain 1 lore for each damage that he removes that way. And then our other big character that we've got is going to be Giant Tinkerbell. And so where she comes into play is, of course, there's a lot of evasive cards out there in the meta right now, and you might have noticed in the deck list that we don't have any evasive characters in our deck list. So she's going to help out by dealing 1 damage to everything on the board whenever she comes into play, as well as dealing an additional 2 damage to an extra character whenever she banishes another in a challenge. So we can use that to our advantage to take out those characters that we can't directly challenge as long as they don't have ward. Additionally, to deal with evasive characters, we're also running Fire the Cannons, as well as Let the Storm Rage On. Of course, Let the Storm Rage On is also going to draw us a card, so we've got some card draw there. And then, of course, that's pretty much what all of our items are going to do as well. Of course, the popsicles are also going to be able to use for healing as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be playing 5 different games. I will have timestamps in the description below, so if you don't want to watch all 5, you can check those out individually. And I'm just going to kind of go over what happened in each of those games, and you'll kind of get the clip notes. And then at the end, we will kind of compare, see what worked, what didn't, and what we need to change. So without any further ado, let's hop into the gameplay. All right, so our first matchup for this deck is going to be Emerald Amethyst, which is not a great matchup for us because it is pretty aggressive and we start pretty slow. So we're just going to ink a Hideaway and play a Popsicle, and of course they're going to come out swinging with the Cursed Merfolk. Not really anything surprising if you've played up against this deck in this set. So we are going to ink I Won't Give In, and we're going to play a Vision of the Future to see what we can come up with. Of course, we would have liked to have ramped here, but unfortunately we just didn't have the cards in hand to do so at the time. So we just kind of got to keep digging and see what we can come up with. And then they're going to make it a little bit worse for us whenever we pass the turn over, because they're going to ink the Fox, they're going to quest for their 2 and play another Cursed Merfolk and a Diablo. So on their next turn, if there's nothing else that we can do, they're going to go all the way up to 7 on turn 3. And it's not a great look. Luckily, we do at least have another Popsicle, so we were able to go ahead and play that. And then we ink another Hideaway, don't really have to worry about items or locations from their deck, and we can pay the 2 for a Tipo that we were lucky enough to come up with. So we were able to get that ramp, and we can put that mystery card into the inkwell and pass it back over to them. And no surprise, they are going to ink, and then they're going to go up to 7. And then they're going to make it just a little bit worse for us once again, because they're going to use that 3 ink that they have for a Cloud Kicker and return Tipo back to our hand. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to deal with any of those characters that they have out, not directly by challenging anyhow. So now we're going to play a Hiram Flaversham and pop a Popsicle to grab a couple more cards and hopefully come up with something a little bit more useful. And luckily we were able to, so we inked Tipo and we used Fire the Cannons to get rid of one of those Cursed Merfolk without having to discard. That was a pretty nice outcome there. And then, of course, turn 4, they're going to play a Genie, so they're going to get an extra card and quest to go to 11. So we're gonna be trying to stop the bleeding if we can over here. So we're gonna go ahead and quest with Hiram, pop the Popsicle once again, and draw our 2 cards to see what we can come up with. So we're gonna ink Cogsworth, and we've got a big tank, so that gets rid of Cursed Merfolk and Diablo. They do get to draw a card, but at least we don't have them questing with those on the next turn. And it looks like they might have actually missed the card draw for Diablo, but either way, they're going to play an Ursula and take a look at our hand. We actually, as you can see, we're set up a little bit better now. We've got a Big Tink, Cogsworth, Sail the Azurite Sea, Baymax, Grand Pabbie, and Fire the Cannons. And those Fire the Cannons and other Tinkerbell are definitely going to be good for us with Genie on the board because we don't have any sort of evasive characters in our deck. So the only way that we can get rid of him is if we can hit him with something like Fire the Cannons or with splash damage. Luckily, that's not typically a problem. We've got quite a bit of that in our deck, but sometimes the timing just isn't great and it bites us. That's probably going to be one of the things that we've got to fix, but for now, we're just going to keep playing and see what it is. So they're going to quest out with their Genie because they know it's getting ready to disappear. So we'll ready our characters up and draw. We're going to immediately turn around and pay 6 for yet another Tinkerbell. So that's going to do away with Cloud Kicker, put 1 damage on each of the Ursulas, and move Genie up to 2. Then we're going to Ink Sail the Azurite Sea and Fire the Cannons on the Genie. I did have to explain to them what just happened. I don't know if they weren't paying attention or what happened, but they hadn't put the damage counters on any of the other characters, and so they were kind of confused why Fire the Cannons was getting rid of their Genie. So I had to kind of explain to them that I had just played that second Tinkerbell and that it was not already on the board. But it all worked out. So they're going to play another Diablo, and that's all they're going to do for this turn. Now at this point, I'm a little concerned that maybe they've got Go-Go Tamago just because they're not doing anything else, maybe just waiting to see if they can hit one of these big Tinkerbells. And because of that, the only thing that I'm going to do on this turn is play yet another big Tinkerbell. They're going to come out and play with the Chernobog's followers as well as a Bonsai. And at this point, I probably should have started questing with the Tinkerbells because the 1 to 13 is not a great look. And so we do at least get the Cogsworth out on the board because we know that we got to do something. So that's the best that I can do to try and prevent anything from the Go-Go Tamago. The only thing they could hit us with at that point is the Bonsai, and then he would only do the 2 anyway, so it's not really worth it for a Go-Go Tamago. So that got us up to 7. I probably should have quested with the Hiram as well here. I don't think it really would have changed the outcome, especially because they play another Bonsai and a White Rose going up to 15, and they definitely have plenty on board to finish out the game, and unfortunately there's just not anything else that I can do here. So I played another Cogsworth, quested out with everybody, and at least got all the way up to 16, so it wasn't a total blowout, but I think that had I decided to quest the turn before, might have been able to do it. But that's just assuming that they didn't have the Go-Go Tamago. All right, so game number 2, we're gonna go up against Steel Amethyst, and we don't have a great opening hand for this one, so only thing we're doing on turn 1 is inking a Hideaway. They're gonna play a Diablo and pass it back over to us. We are going to ink a Visions of the Future to play a Visions of the Future and see if we can come up with some of the cards we would have liked to have had in our opening hand. Of course, normally we would have liked to have ramped here using either Sail the Azurite Sea or Tipo, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So he's gonna pay 2 for a Mr. Shmee and quest with his Diablo going up to 1, pass it back over to us, and we're gonna Sail the Azurite Sea this time. You know, 1 turn late's not too bad. At least we've got a Fortisphere, so we can draw another card. So we're gonna get some of our card draw going, trying to get some of that card advantage, and then pass it back over to them. And then they are going to ink, and they're gonna play a Pete, so that we're not able to play any sort of actions. They're also going to quest out, and now their Mr. Shmee has 1 damage added to him. Would have liked to have had a Hiram here, but unfortunately we didn't, so we're going to play a Baymax instead, and then pass it back over to them. He's going to sing Friends on the Other Side with Pete, and then they are going to pay 3 for a Fox and bounce it back to their hand, so they got it for later. And then we don't have anything that they can hit with the Fox, so he's just going to quest out there, and he's all the way up to 7 while we're still at 0. It hurts, but we're going to ink a Fortisphere to play the Tinkerbell. That way we can get rid of a couple of the characters. They do get a card, but at least we can kind of slow the bleeding. And then they're going to play a Goat and a Maleficent, which, you know, the Maleficent is not too bad, but they're also going to quest with their fox, which leaves it open for us, and it works out. We're going to play a Grand Pabbie, and then we are going to use Tinkerbell to take out the fox, and then also take out the Maleficent. And the nice thing now is we can quest with our Baymax, and then we'll also be able to take 2 damage off of Tinkerbell to gain 2 lore, and then we'll also gain 2 lore from Grand Pabbie. So we got 6 lore that one turn. And from here on out, it's going to be big moves. So when we pass it back over to them, they are going to take out our Tinkerbell with their goat to gain a lore. And then they're going to pay 3 for Pete so that we don't have any actions, as well as a Calhoun and ink a snake. Now we are going to pay 7 for a lucky dime to have that on board, and we're just going to pass it back over to them. They did nothing. They decided to just pass it right back to us. So we fired the cannons on Grand Pabbie. So we got damage somewhere else. We're also going to sell the Azurite Sea to come up with a couple extra cards, play a Popsicle for the same reason, and we're also going to develop our brain, take a look at a couple more cards, and then use our last 2 to sell the Azurite Sea. Now this is something that we shouldn't have done. I meant to leave that other 2 to play my lucky dime, but I just kind of got caught up looking at the cards in my hand, and I had another lucky dime in hand, so I kind of forgot I played that one. So I quested for 2 with the Baymax once again, removed the 2 from Grand Pabbie to gain 4 more lore, and I just left Grand Pabbie where they were at and then passed it back over to them. So whenever we pass it back over to them, they play a genie, draw an extra card, and then they also play a crab to beef up their Calhoun and take out Baymax, so they gain the extra lore. They also sing Friends with Pete, get a couple more cards before passing it back over to us. And now we're going to do something really fun. So we are going to get another Popsicle out, try and find some more cards, and then we're going to pay 3 to hardcast, let the Storm Rage on Pabbie again, and then we're going to draw some more. We're going to quest for 3 with Pabbie, then we're going to also use the Lucky Dime to gain 3 more, and then we're going to use the Popsicle to heal it up and get that last 2 off of Grand Pabbie. Alright, so for game 3, we're going up against Emerald Steel. It's a matchup I haven't seen in a while. We don't have a great starting hand, as you'll see with them playing Diablo. The only things we really have in hand we want are the Fortisphere and Hiram. They're going to pass it back over to us. We're immediately going to play that Fortisphere to try and remedy that situation. They're going to ink a big Ursula, and then they're going to they're going to ink something else, and then they're going to play a Hidden Cove and move Diablo there, quest for 1, and pass it back over to us. We were at least able to get Tipo between either the Fortisphere or the card draw for the turn, so we are able to at least ramp this time around. They're going to play the Ursula that sings twice. They're going to quest out with their Diablo, pass it back over to us. We're going to play out that Hiram to draw a couple more cards by popping the Fortisphere and quest with Tipo. Ursula's going to double sing, let the Storm Rage on, so we'll draw a couple of cards. Hiram will take 4 damage, and they'll get rid of Tipo, but that's fine because we've got some options here. So the next thing that they're going to do is they are going to pay 3 to play a Pete so that we can't play any actions on our next turn, but that's all right. Don't really care about the actions too much because we're going to ink a Develop Your Brain to play a Baymax. We're going to remove 2 damage and gain 2 lore before we pass it back over to them after we gain another from Hiram, which probably wasn't a great idea, but it is what it is, because whenever we pass it back over to them, they are actually going to ink, and then they are going to take out Hiram with their Diablo and Pete. And then something happens that I actually didn't notice at the time until I was looking at the video, but watch what happens. They are going to ink a second time.
Right to jail, right away.
So that's not great. I wish I would have caught that before. Really kind of aggravating that happened, because then they're able to play a Tinkerbell, put a damage back on Baymax, and then pass over to us. So we're going to play a Fortisphere, and then we're going to play another Hiram, pop it again, and just try and move past it. It happens sometimes. It's not the end of the world. We're going to ink I Won't Give In. We're going to play another Fortisphere, and then we're going to pass it back over to them. Once they play Sad Beast, they are just going to quest out with everybody here, and they are going to go up to 7 and pass it back over to us. So this is where it starts getting fun. We're going to play our own big Tinkerbell, start getting rid of some of their smaller characters, and then we are going to draw some cards. We're going to ink a Vision of the Future, and then we're going to pass it back over to them. So they are going to swing on our Hiram. and then they're going to finish them off with Tinkerbell and put a couple damage onto our Tinkerbell. Not really sure why they chose to do that instead of Baymax, but it is what it is. And then they finished him off with the Anna, which makes it even more confusing. So then they quest out once again. They go up to 10, pass it back over to us. And so we once again play another big Tink. She is making a lot of moves in these games. We're going to also sail the Azurite Sea so we can ink an extra time. Then we are going to play a Develop Your Brain, take a look at a couple more cards, and just see what we can come up with. So then we are going to sing Let the Storm Rage on to their Tinkerbell. We're going to draw another card, pass it back over to them. They're going to take a look at our hand once again with an Ursula. They're going to get rid of another Let the Storm Rage on. And then they're going to play their own Diablo. Then they're going to quest out once again. And that will take them all the way up to 17. It's not looking great, but here's where we start to turn it around, because we are going to immediately get rid of their Hidden Cove, and they have more damage than is allowed on Tinkerbell once Hidden Cove is gone. We're going to play a Popsicle, get some more card draw. I'm going to play a couple more for Sail the Azurite Sea. We're going to keep on digging, seeing what we can come up with. And then Tinkerbell is going to do her thing, so she's going to take out Sad Beast. We're going to also use that to move damage to Diablo and take that one out. And then we're going to let the Storm Rage on as well. And so we're starting to thin things out quite a bit here. Now, of course, we weren't able to get everything gone, but we got Hiram. We'll get a couple more cards. We're going to ink another Hiram. And then we will also ink Cogsworth since we played Sail the Azurite Sea. And then we're also going to play Ever as before to go ahead and heal up. Would have been nice to have Grand Pabbie out whenever we did that, but we kind of needed to make sure that our characters remained. So that was a little bit more important. So then they're going to quest, go to 19, and then they hard cast Sudden Chill, so we got rid of Sunglasses, and they pass it back over to us. So here we are going to finish clearing off their board with Tinkerbell, and then we're going to pay 5 to get another Baymax out. We're going to heal up to grab the 2, then we're going to quest for 2 and 3 with Hiram and Baymax to get us up to 10. And we're going to pass it back over to them. They play, we don't talk about Bruno, and they decide to go with one of our Baymaxes. So we kind of shuffle it up, let them pick, and they decided to go with the one that was a Tinkerbell. So don't have to worry about seeing Tinkerbell again just right away. That's all right. We already have a little bit of an advantage, even though we are down by 9, just because they are top decking at this point. So we are going to now pay 5 for another Baymax, and they just conceded because we were able to quest for 5 with ours, and there was nothing that they could possibly do. All right, so for game 4, we played Emerald Steel again, which is really weird because I hadn't seen it in a while, and then I play it 2 games back to back. But this one doesn't go quite the same as the last one, although it does start out the same way, taking a look at our hand with Diablo. No surprise there, but we do at least have a little bit starting hand this time around. Don't have any items, which kind of sucks. It would have been nice to have had one, but we do at least have a Develop Your Brain, so we can take a look at a couple of cards and see what we can come up with there and pass it back over to them. We still get that card draw. So they're going to play a Hidden Cove, no surprise there. And then they are also going to pay another one for another Diablo, so they'll take a look and see what changed. Of course, there is a little bit of a change. And then they pass it over to us. We're going to ink a Baymax, and we are then going to pay 2 for a Sail the Azurite Sea, so we can get another card and ink Cogsworth. And we pass it back over to them. Now this time they're going to ink again. They're going to play a Prince John, just quest out and pass it back over to us. We are going to play a Tipo this time and ink a mystery card. And then we're also going to ink a Big Tink to play a Hideaway, get rid of that Hidden Cove so that it doesn't become a problem. And then pass it back over to them. Now this time they are going to sing Let the Storm Rage on to our Tipo, get rid of it, and they'll draw a card. So we don't have anything on board, but that's all right. We got 5 inks, so we're at least ramped a little bit, and we can draw a card, and we're gonna go ahead and play a Popsicle, and we also have enough now that we can still pay 4 for our Hiram, and we're gonna pop that Popsicle to draw 2 more cards. We're gonna do what Hiram loves to do. So then we're gonna ink another hideaway so that we can play a Fire the Cannons on one of those Diablos, make sure it doesn't shift into a larger Diablo, although that is still a possibility with the other one. Then they're going to quest with their 3 and go up to 10. They're also going to, we don't talk about Bruno, with the Hiram, so we shuffled it up, let them pick, and they decided to go with the card on the end. And that was our Hiram, unfortunately. So then they're going to get rid of Grab Your Swords to shift the Diablo and pass it back over to us. I was asking there about what his stat line was, and I just hard cast Let the Storm Rage On to get rid of him. So they really only got 1 extra card off of him. And then I played 2 for a Tipo to ramp just a little bit more, and then I paid 1 more to Fire the Cannons on the Sad Beast, so it shouldn't be drawing cards anymore either. And passed it back over to them. So they're going to play a big Tink and quest out, so they're going to go up to 14 and pass it back over to us. It's not looking great, down 14 to nothing. There they were trying to make sure that I had put the counter on Tipo. I don't think that they could see it because the colors were too similar with my dice. So there I hard cast Let the Storm Rage On to Sad Beast once again, and then I paid 3 more to do it again and finish them off. Probably not the best move, but I didn't have very good draw in this game. Unfortunately, I just wasn't getting the cards that I wanted, and so I paid the price for it. I never really got anything out, and I played another Fortisphere to try my luck, but at this point I need to clear their board completely in order to not lose the game, and there's just no way for me to do that. So I just played out my turn and just kind of to see more or less what I had coming, if I had some more draw and had more options, a little bit more time. So I did at least Fire the Cannons just because I had it. Didn't really do anything because, like I said, I couldn't clear their board, so they were able to go to 20 and finish that one up. So for game 5, we're going to be ending the same way that we started off, playing against Emerald Amethyst. And it's a little bit different this time. You'll see here in just a second, they are playing with some proxies, so they're going to ink a Chernobog to play a Chernobog before passing it over to us. And then we are going to ink I Won't Give In and play a Popsicle before passing it back over to them. So then on their turn, they are going to ink a Fox, and then they'll pay 2 for a Mr. Shmee and play and then quest with their Chernobog. Before passing it back over to us, we'll ink Cogsworth, and we're going to play Visions of the Future. Of course, again, we would have liked to have ramped here, but it just did not work out. So at least we had some card draw, but would have liked to have had the ramp. So we're going to send it back over to them, and they are going to pay 3 for a Calhoun, not what we want to see, and a Broom as well. Then they're going to quest for 3 with characters they already had on board and send it back over to us, and Mr. Shmee now has 1 damage. Then we're going to ink Ever As Before, and we are going to hard cast Let the Storm Rage on Mr. Shmee, just because he is the only one questing for 2. We got to slow the bleeding just a little bit, and I think I get a little out of hand with it this game, honestly. I think that's part of what went wrong, is I just had so many issues with kind of getting outpaced, and I really wasn't drawing the cards that I wanted when I needed them, and so I kind of panicked on this one, and there are a lot of misplays in this game. I was at least able to get Hiram out this turn, get a couple extra cards before sending it back over to them. And then they played the Gontu. They also quested with the Broom. I think they meant to quest, then play Gontu, and then pop the Broom. They're still a little bit newer player. They said they were getting used to it, so it is what it is. It's pretty low stakes here, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But then we're going to play a Popsicle. We're going to also play Fire the Cannons on Gontu, as well as singing Let the Storm Rage on to Gontu as well. Probably would have been better off just hard casting it and questing to pop the Popsicle. Like I said, I kept misplaying. We are going to play Sail the Azurite Sea here. We're going to ink a Develop Your Brain and play a Develop Your Brain. So, like I said, it seems like it would have been a lot better for us to have just quested here and popped the Popsicle for those extra cards rather than inking them. We're also going to ink a big Tinkerbell and play another Popsicle. So we do at least have some Hiram food available, but as you'll see, it's not necessarily going to matter too much because we're misplaying bad. So we're going to pass it back over to them. and they are going to play yet another Gantu. Just what we wanted to see, right? Another character that quests for 4, and then they are going to quest with Calhoun and Chernabog, but this time they are going to pop Chernabog to draw an additional card, and then after that they're going to pass it over to us. So this time we are going to more or less replay the last turn. So we're going to pay 6 for a giant Tink. It's not going to do anything to Calhoun because she has resist, but it will at least deal 1 to Gantu. And then instead of questing, we are going to sing Let the Storm Rage On to Gantu to finish him off and draw a card once more. And then after that, we are going to ink a Cogsworth and play a Develop Your Brain. So we will get our choice of the top 2 cards and put the other on the bottom once again. Still think it probably would have been better off not doing that, but it is what it is. It's too late now. So we're going to pass it back over to them. Now all they have is Calhoun, but they're going to play a Genie. So now they have an evasive character, and they are also going to play a Diablo. So now they have 3 characters on board, one of which is evasive. And again, we don't have anything evasive on board, and the only way we can get extra damage on them is either using cards like the Fire the Cannons or Let the Storm Rage On, as well as the extra damage that we can get from Tinkerbell. So they pass it back over to us. This time we do the right thing. We quest for 1, pop the Popsicle to draw a couple extra cards. We're also going to play the Cogsworth. I was kind of debating what I want to do with Tinkerbell here, but ultimately I decided to just go ahead and quest with her. We're also going to ink Ever as before and play 2 for a Sail the Azurite Sea so that we can get another card, maybe do a little bit of ramp. And so we end up inking I Won't Give In, and then passing back over to them. So now with this turn, they are going to pay 4 for yet another Genie. Just what we want to see. 2 evasive characters that we can't deal with directly. And they're going to draw another card.
I would like to introduce.
So then they used Strength of a Raging Fire on Tinkerbell to deal 4 damage before finishing off with Calhoun, and they'll gain that extra lore because of Calhoun's effect. And then they quest with the Diablo, and then pass back over to us. So this time we are going to start off by questing with Hiram, popping the Popsicle once more, drawing our couple cards to come up with some options, and it's not looking great, honestly, down 15 to 3. So we're going to ink another Hiram, and then we are going to pay another 6 for another Tinkerbell. So we will get rid of their Diablo, they'll get another card, and then we'll have 1 damage on each of the Genies. So we at least have something on the Genies, but we got quite a ways to go because each one of those guys has 4 willpower. And then we're also going to play another Hiram just to have another body on board and pass it back over to them. So with this turn, they're kind of buying themselves some insurance. They pay 4 for yet another Genie. Great, perfect, awesome. And then they also get a Mr. Shmee, which is less of a problem, but at this point they already have 19 lore and they've got quite the insurance policy behind them. So they're gonna buy themselves some insurance, and we're gonna do the best that we can. So we're gonna draw a card, see what we come up with. We're gonna quest out with everybody here so it doesn't hurt so bad. And we're gonna go up to 11. I also forgot on my last turn whenever I quested with Hiram to add 1, so we're a little bit behind there. We're also gonna play the Lucky Dime just to get a little bit closer, and then we'll pay the 2 to gain the extra from Tinkerbell, taking us to 13, so the gap's not so wide. All right, so that could have gone better. It also could have gone a lot worse, I feel like. 2 out of 5 games isn't too bad, at least not for a deck that we just put together. We gotta have some room for improvement, right? So first things first, let's talk about the things that we did well. Card draw, that was definitely there. At no point did I have any sort of issues where I just wasn't able to draw cards. There were maybe a couple of times that I wasn't drawing quite as much as I would have liked to, but I really wasn't ever just top decking and just kind of at the will of the cards, right? So that's one thing that we did really well. Another thing that we did well is we were able to get our combos off pretty well. So we were able to make use of both Grand Pabbie as well as Baymax and get some extra lore from those guys, which is great considering they are kind of our win con. So that's good, right? So with those out of the way, I know that was kind of a short list, but let's talk about the things that we need to improve on. So the biggest thing that stood out to me, and it might not have been quite as apparent by actually like watching the gameplay, because I couldn't, you couldn't see what was in my hand except for the handful of times that someone either played Diablo or Ursula, and I actually laid them out in front of us. But really, I ran into a lot of uninkable cards, and there were several times where I had too many cards in my hand that were uninkable, and I couldn't really do anything with them. So I'm maybe going to try and cut back on those, because really the only thing that I have to use those for ink is TPO. And TPO I didn't see quite as often as I would have liked. Of course, on turn 2, with us running Sapphire, I would really like to ramp every time if possible. So I really want to see either Sell the Azurite Sea or TPO. It's not really that big of a deal if I don't see them, but of course that's definitely what I would like to do. If I can't do that, I definitely want to at least draw cards, which we were doing pretty well. So that one is a maybe, right? One of the bigger issues that we ran into is whenever our opponent goes wide, we didn't typically have a whole lot to deal with them. So Tinkerbell can help with that whenever we've got damage on some of the other characters already, or if they're just a bunch of smaller characters that only have, just like one willpower. So we need to be able to kind of handle a wider board a little bit more often. We do have the spot removal with Fire the Cannons and Let the Storm Rage on, but those only target a single character at a time. So probably gonna add in something maybe like a Grab Your Swords. That way we can deal some more damage across the board. So whenever they go wide, we've got more options, and we don't really, we don't just get outrun because the board's too wide, right? So that's another thing that I think would probably be good. Another thing, I don't really know how much we were actually getting out of Cogsworth. I added him in mostly because of Go-Go Tamago, and she can obviously be quite a problem for many of us. The deck that I typically play is Emerald Amethyst, and so of course I'm running Go-Go. I know how much of a threat she is, and I absolutely love that card because she wins many games. And so that was the whole reason that I put Cogsworth in there, and the more I think about it, the more I feel like Cogsworth probably doesn't have a home in our deck anymore. On top of that, we've also got Sunglasses. I think I'm only running 2 copies of it, but it never really was worth actually putting out. I only ever really felt like it was good for ink, so there's not really any reason to keep it around. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to replace it with just yet, but something's got to go. Maybe I can get like Strength of a Raging Fire in there. I know that really doesn't help as far as our as going wide. It's just more spot removal, but it can help us take care of those bigger targets, especially things like the Genie or like a Maui Shark if we run into that. But yeah, those are the changes that I'm thinking of so far. Now, I'm sure there's probably things that I'm missing. Maybe there's something that you noticed that I didn't. And if there is any of that, of course, let me know in the comments. Let me know what cards you think that should come out, things that maybe I could put in to kind of improve in those departments, because I really want to collaborate on this with you guys. I think it's a lot of fun just to be able to like talk to other people about things that can go in the deck. There's a lot of cards out there, right? And there are cards that I don't even think about. And I honestly, I don't play Steel very often. I haven't had a whole lot of the cards that I would like to, like the staple cards, to be able to do so. I'm still missing quite a few of them, but I feel like I finally got enough of them now to be able to try it. And so that's kind of what I was wanting to do with this. And like I mentioned before, I really wanted to build a Grand Pabbie deck. Now, whether it's viable or not, Grand Pabbie may have to go. I don't think so at this point, but long term, that may be a thing. Also, with the Lucky Dime, I'm not sure that it's necessarily needed. Of course, it did help us win one game, but I don't know how often that is going to come along. That might just be an edge case. So the Lucky Dime might not necessarily be something that we need to keep. If you're still here at this point in the video, consider subscribing. We are going to be doing these every single week, and we're just going to iterate on this deck until we've got something that hopefully we can take along to set champs, because that's ultimately the goal, right? Is to build a deck that is good enough that we can actually compete with it and maybe have a fighting chance. So with that being said, like I said, I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you guys next week. Take it easy. Bye.